Moonstruck TV with A1R Psychic all the way from the Gold Coast. I hope you've had an absolutely awesome, fantastic week wherever you are in this planet of ours. I know I certainly have. I went away for a few days and sort of visited the capital of Australia, Canberra, where all the politicians live and all the money flows and all the probably the BS as well. But it was nice to get away and sort of have a look around our nation's capital. So for those of you that are in other parts of the world that might be embarking on a trip this week, I hope you really enjoy it. But don't forget to take your smile with you. It's really important. So we're going to kick today's show off with the Simply Tarot card of the week, which we feature every week. I draw a card about an hour before the show to sort of put us into the energy of where the next 7 days are going to be. And some weeks they're positive and some weeks they're not so positive. And this week, unfortunately, it's one of those ambiguous cards where it can be seen as a positive, but it can also be seen as a negative. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce the card, which is the Seven of Pentacles. Now, the Seven of Pentacles is the card of work frustration. Now, work frustration can mean too much work, lack of work, just not wanting to go to work, just wanting to go and play instead of going to work. Hard work needing to be done either at work or a situation in life. So I look at things when I get a work frustration card. I look at what is it that's causing me frustration. Is it my day job, or is it something in my life that maybe needs a bit of extra attention, something that I need to consciously put more effort into, or maybe even let go of? You know, sometimes there's just some things we've got to draw a line under it in our life and say, I'm done, I'm finished, I can't do any more. And sometimes this card will come out around that. So whatever the card means to you in the next 7 days, take a little bit of time to contemplate. Look at what's going on in your life. See if there's anything there that you can change, let go of. We still are under the tail end of the full moon in Scorpio. So for some of you, you're still feeling a little bit wrung out backwards by, you know, going through the ringer backwards emotionally and feeling a little bit tired and not have had enough sleep in the last 48 hours. So just be kind to yourself with that. So that leads me on to the candle of the week. And this week I've actually chosen an unusual sort of candle. I've chosen the candle of forgiveness. It just sort of felt right to me that it followed on from the full moon and all the intensity and all the emotions and everything that were going to be stirred up and things that we may have had hidden from ourselves for quite some time, that we now need to look at it and say, I forgive. Now, whether that's forgiving a person, whether that's forgiving a situation, or whether it's just even forgiving ourselves and saying it's okay to be human, it's okay to have emotions, it's okay to get upset, it's okay to get angry. And it's okay to be happy too. We can have a lot of emotions that go through our lives from a day-to-day basis. So these candles burn between 60 to 100 hours. I claim I can get 100 out of mine. The candle making supply says 60 hours, so somewhere in between is how long they'll burn for. I like to burn my candle from a minimum of 5 minutes to 2 hours per day. If I was working with something like forgiveness, I would be looking at the areas of my life that I feel need to be released, or things that I need to forgive and release and let go of, and sort of allow myself to be human and say it's okay to have those emotions, or it's okay to have been upset or hurt by somebody, but now I forgive them in my heart. I'm releasing it out of my heart and my soul so that I'm not keeping on board that destructive type of energy that can then turn inward and create disease in my body. And I think that's really the important thing. So general rules apply. Always put something underneath the candle before you put it onto a piece of furniture. So always a coaster or a book or something like that, so as you've got a buffer zone. The actual wax itself does not get hot, but the glass container it's in does get hot. And with these extra large ones, they've got 2 wicks. So it's entirely up to you whether you burn both sides at the same time or whether you light one side today and one side the next day. That's entirely your choice. I tend to sort of gravitate between the two. Sometimes I think I need a lot more power out of the candle, so I'll burn both sides. And if I'm sort of just want a gentle burn, I'll only burn one side. So for those of you that might be travelling or have a small space, we also have them in a gift box set, which is the 3 candles here of forgiveness this week. But you can choose 3 candles from our extensive range of 28 to make up your own special gift box pack. These candles will burn up to about 15 hours. They are in a glass container as well. They're easy to pop into your handbag or your suitcase if you're travelling, but they're also the perfect size to be putting on your workstation. You know, taking them to work, having that really nice aromatherapy energy going through the building, and also sort of helping you release whatever it is, or work with the intent, purpose and direction of any candle that you want to work with. So it's really important, I think, that we learn to forgive ourselves There's so many times people talk about, oh, we've got to release and let go of something, don't hold on to it. And a lot of times as human beings, we don't really know how to do that. We think because we've spoken about it and we've removed it from our mind that we've actually forgiven it and we've actually released it. But what we've actually done is put it in the back of our memory bank or back into our big toe or our leg or our arm or whatever and locked it away for later on. And we never really go back and revisit and look at why we've locked up that emotion. And that's my personal belief of why people end up with serious terminal illnesses. Yes, there's a lot of other factors that come into things in our lives. There's the DNA of our family history and our family genetics comes into things, along with, what your hair colouring and your eye colouring is going to be as a family trait. You don't necessarily come from a long line of blondes and then all of a sudden have a dark-haired, dark-eyed, dark-skinned person unless there was somebody in the bloodline that was that particular blood group or that particular colouring. So the same thing for diseases. We do inherit diseases that come through the family DNA. But for other things that pop up that we've never seen before in the family, then that's where we've got to ask ourselves, what related emotional issues have we not resolved, have we not forgiven, have we not released? So that's enough of me being on my soapbox today about forgiveness. We're going to sort of move the show along quite hurtling pace today. I want to focus on the final part of our 4-part series of astrology houses. And this is where we take a 360-degree astrology wheel and we divide it into 12 equal houses. And it's like taking a piece of pie. And it's saying, what does that piece of pie or that house represent to us as individuals? How do we learn to work with it? In the previous 3 shows, we've worked with the first 9 houses. We're up to the final 3, which is the final houses that we share with someone else. So we're looking at house number 10, 11 and 12. Now, house number 10 is where we're known to be doing our public stuff. This is the big business end of town. This is the things that we work on that are on a mammoth scale, whether it's big business, whether it's our profession, whether it's what we take out into the public. It's where we look for the official parts of our lives, anything that we need to do with it's connected with government, big business, shopping, solicitors, doctors, dentists, hospitals, those sort of things. It's where we look for that sort of stuff in our life. And you say to me, well, how does that affect me personally? Well, we as individuals all need to participate in the game of life. We all participate in some form or another with government decisions, in whether we walk into a bank, when we go to a doctor, when we go to a dentist. We're all walking into a public or an official building. So the 10th house is quite important because in astrology, it's where we look for our profession. Not necessarily our job that we earn our income from, but it's where we look for our profession. So house number 11, now this is a rather ambiguous house because it's the love that we're supposed to give, or the love that we've given comes from the 5th house, but the love that we received, but we're bouncing it back to give it back as well. So it's sort of like almost like on a boomerang. We're sending it, we're bringing it in, we're pushing it out, we're bringing it in, we're pushing it out. So this is where we look for the house of the things that give us pleasure in as much as groups. The hobbies, the things that we do, our sporting events, things that give us pleasure, things that we do on a grand scale, where we're in a group of people. It's not just the I stuff. It's not just me individually participating in a running race. It would be me participating in the relay with 3 or 4 other people or 6 other people, or running onto the football field with another 24 people, or playing a game of tennis as in a doubles, not a singles match. So it's the things that we share with other people. It's the things that give us pleasure. It's the things that bring a smile to our face. But it's also where some tremendous ideas can come from, because by throwing ideas around in a group situation, we have those light bulb or those aha moments that couldn't have come if we hadn't had the high energy of the group all working together, trying to brainstorm and come up with new ideas. So the final house that we're working with is house number 12. And this is another one that people struggle with when they first get into astrology, because they see the word mental health and they immediately think, oh my God, I don't want a mental illness. It doesn't mean that. It means the things that we all have rolling around in our heads. Even the most positive of people like me still have some dark thoughts, some dark moments, some times when we're not as secure as we could be, and we go into our mind and we have silly thoughts that might only last a split second, but they are mental thoughts. They are things that we may not necessarily voice to someone else. So this is the collective area of where we sort of look at, where we sort of drop everything off. It's the last turning point. It's like the dustbin. It's the trash bin. It's where we store those thoughts that are never going to see the light of day. And a lot of times, if you've noticed how your energy is, if you're feeling down, you'll attract all down sort of people. If you're very buoyant and positive and upbeat, you seem to be attracting positive, upbeat people to your life. So energy is a big thing. Energy is something that I like to work with on a daily basis, and I think we should all try and understand energy a little bit more. There's no bad houses and there's no good houses. It's just the energy changes from house to house. So that's where we wrap up the house series. Next week, I'm going to introduce something slightly different into astrology, where we've been working on planets and houses and how different things affect us. I thought we'd shake it up a little bit and start working with some famous people. So next week I'm going to introduce a famous male Aries singer. And it would be somebody that most people would sort of know. And I just think that will give you an idea to see how the Aries energy will work in a situation like that. And you'll be able to sort of say, oh, yeah, I can relate to that. Then that sort of shows me that my brother's an Aries and why he behaves that way or he doesn't behave that way. So I thought we'd go through a series of things like that where each week we'll feature somebody different. We'll take it in turn from male to female. I'll cover the full 12 signs. So it'll be a 24-week series next week, starting next week with male in Aries and a famous singer. So this week, my glimpse around the universe, I want to sort of take it in such a way that it's a planet that we very rarely ever talk about. It's something in my 30-odd years in astrology, I've noticed there's been changes. There's been a lot more written about Chiron than there ever was, but there still is a real mystique around Chiron. Is Chiron a planet? What's the role of Chiron in a chart? Because we don't necessarily say he is a planet, he or she is a planet, but they're there. And they're considered in astrology the part of the chart where you look for where you've been wounded, particularly on an emotional level. And people sort of say, well, that could be anything. I could have been wounded in 1,000 different ways on an emotional level from childhood right through to my death. But this is sort of where we look for the major part of the wounding in the chart, something that may be connected with a past life, if you believe in past lives, something that you've brought in from karma, something that really needs to be worked on, something that maybe you need to approach in a different way this time. And once you master the lessons of what Chiron is trying to teach you, then maybe you will find that inner peace in your belly that you've been searching for since the day you first drew breath. So Chiron, the planet of the wounded healer, has just changed energies. He's actually just started his very long trek through Aries. Now, I thought it would be really interesting if we had a quick look at how this is going to affect each and every one of us, not just Aries, but every sign. What does Chiron in Aries collectively mean for each and every one of us? Well, it's very, very interesting to see that Chiron, as we said, is the wounded healer, is where we need to address and fix up areas of our lives where we feel we've been very hurt. Now, if we looked at this as a collective, as a global thing, as a collective, as each one of us coming together to be like the world, what is it the world needs healing from at the moment? There's so many places around the world where people aren't speaking to each other. There's been arguments, disagreements, wars have gone on. We've had, governments come and go, and we've had people sort of saying, I didn't vote for this one, and how'd they get in, and all these sort of things. So there's a lot of things going on out there at the moment that people don't quite understand. So if you look at while Chiron was in Pisces, which is where it was previously, where we had this sort of gaseous, floatious sort of energy, 1 minute people thought we were going one way, and next minute the ball bounced the other way, and we got a completely different outcome, because as people went to vote or went to do whatever they were doing in their day-to-day lives, at that last split second, they made a different choice to what had maybe been in their head all the way through until they got to that time. And that's exactly how Chiron was meant to work in Pisces. It was meant to make us have a conscience. It was meant to make us, shake us up out of our foundations and say, we don't always have to stick to what we've claimed to believe to be true. We have the right to change it at the last minute because it feels wrong and it feels right to go this new direction, so that's the way I'm going to go. And maybe that's what was helping to start shape the changes in history that are now unfolding. So now Chiron's moved into Aries, so the energy is going to be very me first. What is in it for me? How do I get the maximum out of this for me, 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 me? Now, I don't want you to get bogged down on the me, and think, oh, everybody's going to be so far up their own backside that they can't acknowledge another human being. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we have to put it back into the context of how does this affect me as an individual first, then I can look at how it affects you. Then collectively we can join hands and we can make change. So if you look at what's happened in the last week around the world with the presidents, or whatever they call themselves, in North and South Korea coming together, the two leaders, and crossing over into each other's turf and acknowledging there's going to be some talks, taking them forward to reunite the peninsula, that is a major step forward. That to me is a typical Chiron in Aries healing process. It's about the brand new book, about the brand new beginnings, about leaving the past in the past. Yes, we acknowledge the past is still there and it's still important, but we're also acknowledging and aware of we can take a step into the future or into the new now, and let's try it from both sides. I'll look at it from my side, you look at it from your side, and then we'll try from each other's side. And that's exactly what they did. So that's a classic example. So if President Trump gets the accolades for having brought those two leaders together, well, I say bring it on and bring on more. It's not a matter of whether I like or dislike your president in the US of A. Let's give credit where credit's due. And if he's been the one through his actions and his way of running a country and becoming, more powerful in his own right, as being able to bring these two leaders together, then I say, hallelujah, bring on more of it. There's going to be, on a more personal level, we will find that we can have our own moments in history like that. There may be things in our families, in our work life, with friends, things like that that have been a long time in the past where we've all been very hurt and too many words were said and things got left undone, and all of a sudden families are fractured and diversified and pulled apart. Well, now may be the time to revisit that. I'm not saying in every instance can we make it right, but what I'm saying, let's sort of, put the olive branch out there, see what happens. If it's taken up, well, then let's both try and put ourselves in the I moment and then try and put ourselves in the your moment. And maybe then we can start healing some of the things that have been ailing us. And again, that leads back to our forgiveness candle for the week, that maybe we can sort of start to heal our own world. So I think we're going to have a very interesting few months ahead of us. So, it'll be interesting to see how some of the planets sort of start to unfold. And we'll be talking about Uranus moving into Taurus in the next couple of shows, so that'll be interesting as well. So we're going to talk to Angela in San Antonio in Texas. Are you there, Angela?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
How can I help you tonight, Angela?
Yes, ma'am. First-time caller here. Let's see. I've never really had reading or a question called in before for something like this. So I guess I could probably start with myself or so. I guess I'm kind of wondering. You have to forgive me. I'm kind of a little flustered here. I guess I was just kind of general reading, I guess, of myself.
Do you have a particular question? Is something bothering you? Is it your job? Is it should I move? A relationship?
Well, actually, yeah, my relationship in particular. I've been seeing a guy for about a year and a half now, and it feels like it's been a stop-start motion here, and I'm just kind of wondering when am I finally going to have everything move forward?
Okay. The major problem with this relationship is, look, you haven't assessed it wrong. It has been sort of stop-start. It's like turning the faucet on and off. And it's like because he's so fearful of making a mistake, because of past situations where I think he got himself into relationships too quickly and then sort of felt like he was drowning, and then things didn't go the way he wanted them to and the relationship fell apart. He promised himself this time he'd take it really slow. Well, they're slow, and this has been snail-paced slow. So it's about time now that things started to sort of expand out so we can start to get some more traction in this relationship. Look, I like him. I think he's a very nice man. I feel by the end of this month, by the end of May, I think things will be really starting to ramp up a lot more. You'll start to notice the change in his conversations where he's using words like we instead of I, talking about when we do this down the track and when we do that and when we live together or when this happens. And they're all positive signs. I'm not saying he's going to sort of sit down and say, let's move in together by the end of May, but you'll start to see the shift in the wording and you'll start to feel, well, hang on, this is going somewhere now. Where just prior to that, it was sort of all about and, you know, oh, well, you know, I'll give you a call on Friday. And, you know, you sort of never really had anything in a pattern that you could rely on. It was sort of always like, are we still at the beginning of the relationship was how I felt the energy was, you know, even though he would say no, we're, you know, coasting along really nicely, but you were questioning it because there was no depth coming to it. It was pleasant, but there was no depth. By 18 months, we should be getting a lot more depth to it. So I feel between now and the end of the year, I think the two of you will be making plans for a very secure future.
Oh, that's good, because it's been, like I said, stop and start, and I kind of questioned if it was me or if it was him, and I've always had all these doubts around just thinking, it's like, oh my gosh, is this not right? And, you know, a lot of things told me stick it out, and, you know, but something would come up with me or something would come up with him, and I just kind of wonder if it was all worth it in the end.
Yeah, and that's because of the fear. See, what you were doing, you were picking up on his fear. See, the relationship would go along nicely and everything would be starting to progress, and then he'd hit the panic button thinking, my God, this is too good to be true. Maybe there's something wrong. So he'd literally shut the energy down, and that's what you were picking up on. And then you'd think, well, hang on, what have I done wrong? I thought we had a great weekend, and then all of a sudden nothing. And so then you start to question it, because logically you should, because something shifted. But now I think we're going to start to get it on a more even keel. It's like he's broken down those barriers and it's good. Look, I think the two of you, you know, obviously there's still more communication and things like that we need to ramp up, but that will come. You know, it's a matter of just being able to trust each other. And you know from the pit of your stomach, you were getting that don't give up on this yet. There's still too much there to look out for. So you needed to keep going with that. So don't question that, sweetie. It's good to sort of question and be, you know, I always believe we've got to be practical as well. But then when you look at what's actually happening around it, he hasn't said to you, I want out of this relationship. All he's done is been hot and cold.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, so everything's going to be good, sweetie. So good luck, Angela. Lovely to speak with you. And just keep positive, sweetheart, and it's going to be right. So we're going to go to Carol in Niagara in Ontario, Canada. Are you there, Carol?
I am, Amanda. How are you?
How are you? I'm very well, sweetie. How can I help you tonight? Do you have a question for me, Carol?
Yeah. I'm wondering whether or not... it has to do with my career, my job, and
that will keep the juices flowing, because I know by the end of this year you will have made your decision. Whether or not you're going to be able to put it into action by then, I think may be a little bit premature. But what I want you to do over the next few months is sit down and look at, there's probably been something that you've always wanted to do all your life, but you never had the time, the money, you had family, you had other commitments. Maybe that's a good starting point. Go back and visit those dreams. It may not be necessarily what we're going to end up doing, but it gives us a point of focus and it gives us a beginning point. So say it was flower arranging. You go back and you look at that and you think, yes, that was always my passion since I was 20, never had the opportunity to do it. You go back and you look at it, you do a course and you think, yeah, I like that, but it doesn't really, you know, float my boat anymore. So, but that will then lead you on to something else, and then that might lead you on to something else, and then eventually we get what it is. I can see you with what I'd term as a little hobby business that's going to take about 3.5 days a week out of your life. It'll still give you a bit of income above what you've already got stashed away for your retirement, but it'll just be a nice work-life balance. You know what I mean? It'll be something that you can work in your own hours, that you're passionate about, keeps the grey matter going, keeps you motivated, gives you a bit of cash flow, but also gives you the flexibility to say, I've got time on my hands to travel or do whatever it is that I'm passionate about. This is going to sound absolutely ridiculous, but they showed me leaves, and I don't know why they were showing me. I know you're from Canada. They were showing me a maple leaf, but they were showing me the maple leaf as it's turning brown. Now, I don't know how to tie that into the business.
The fall. Sounds like that's the fall, because that's when they turn brown.
Yeah, I know. So I don't know whether to take that the answer's coming in fall, or whether it was to do with the maple leaf, or whether that was just to sort of say to me, by then you'll have all the answers. I'm not sure. Sometimes they give me cryptic things that I don't even understand. But I know it's a little business that you're going to have, and I felt it was somehow or another internet sort of based. It was sort of something that was portable. It wasn't a shop down the street with bricks and mortar.
Well, I was actually thinking of, I'm an energy healer.
Right, okay, yep.
And so I was thinking of doing a Reiki business.
Good, great, terrific. That would fit with what I saw, but somehow or another you've got to tie the maple leaf into it, Carol. We're going to have to go. It was lovely to speak to you, sweetie. We've come to the end of the show. So it's really nice to talk to everybody from around the world. We really do enjoy it here at A1R Psychic Radio. We love to help you all. If there's any subject that you'd like me to talk about on the show, please personal message me, Amanda Hall Psychic. You'll find my details on Facebook. After the show here directly today, I do have a little mini workshop over on Facebook Live on forgiveness, so you can more than welcome to join us there. On next week's show, we'll have the Simply Tarot card of the week, the candle of the week, our glimpse around the universe, and don't forget our very, very first famous singer next week, a male, Aries. Wonder who it will be. So wherever you are in this amazing globe of ours, I hope you have an absolutely awesome week. Be kind to each other, and we all need to be our thoughts need to go out to all those people that are facing that weather event in the USA with the tornadoes that are hitting. I hope everybody stays safe and we don't have any loss of life and too much damage to property. Until next week, enjoy your week. And don't forget, if you want to go shopping for any of our amazing products, don't forget to type radio in at the coupon box at the checkout. Have a great week and lovely to speak with you. See you again next week. Bye for now.
I'm Jenny, and thanks for watching Moonstruck. And now back to A1R on the air, Psychic Talk Radio now on Moonstruck TV and Lightning Television.
Hi everyone, I'm Heather, and this is Psych and the City. I'm the Psych Heather Ogle, and the city is Hollywood, California. Welcome. We are live, and that's exciting every time I do this. So tonight I wanted to talk about this vibration that's going around this week with my clients and my friends, and before I get to the fortunes. And what it is kind of a darkness and a depression. And I've never really spoken to you guys about depression and loss and how to cope with that and how to deal with times when you go dark. Because in spirituality, it's not always about being happy all the time. I think that's a big misconception, is that if you're spiritual, you're always happy. That couldn't be further from the truth. Spirituality helps us through the darker times and keeps us from going off the deep end, I think. But what happens when we start to feel dark? How do we cope with that? And of course, we do go to our spiritual practice, but when we're in it, it's very difficult to get there initially. And so I wanted to just speak to you guys about it tonight and just give you a few tools so that you can be ready when depression strikes. And I suffer from depression personally. I have since I was as far back as I can remember. Since I was 5 years old, I used to be really dark and sort of sit with my little dog and talk to my dog and tell him all my problems and take solace that way. And I've dealt with it my whole life, and that is one of the reasons I sought out spirituality and with my psychic ability, I was always sort of seeking a higher truth and trying to sort of figure out what was going on with myself. And so that brought me to spirituality. But so when you start to feel dark, what do you do? What should you do? Well, most people self-isolate. And what that does is it creates more depression, because you spiral and you start to think darker thoughts and you start to get darker. So what I suggest is reaching out. And even though you probably don't even want to. But it's very healthy, and it's very important that you reach out. Now, should you text someone? Should you hit them up on Facebook or Instagram? Not really, because it's not true intimacy. And what you want with dark feelings and depression is a true connection. And so true connection is the old school face-to-face, okay, you guys? So make an appointment with someone, or make a date with someone, like coffee or lunch, or go over to their house if you want to just be in their realm. But you want to show up and be present and be with a friend or a loved one or a family member, and trust that they want to help. That's important. You don't want to have that guilt about being a burden. That's a common misconception. Oh, I'm a burden. I don't want to feel guilty for being a burden. Understand that people want to help and people love you. My husband lost his daughter she took her own life, and this was about 2 years ago. And since that happened, it's been really one of my goals in life to make sure that people can make it through depression and not, go to such lengths to take their own lives. It's absolutely devastating, and I helped him through his depression during that time. And she does come to me in the form of butterflies. And as I do see the angels, it's very helpful for us. But I want you to understand, reach out, seek someone to talk to. And then from there, an important thing to do is number 2 is do things that make you feel good. Okay, so get your butt out of bed, go get a mani-pedi, go shopping, go get your hair done. Do things that make you feel beautiful, that make you feel good. Try to do something, okay? Because if you self-isolate, if you stay in bed the whole time, you're going to spiral, and that doesn't work. In Buddhism, there's a saying, sit with the pain. Now, that's different. If you sit with the pain, that means you're processing, you're dealing with it, you're figuring out active ways in which to feel better. Ultimately, that's sitting with the pain, okay? You're actually dealing with it by processing and feeling everything, okay? That's different than self-isolating, okay? Self-isolating, you're probably overeating, getting high, getting drunk, smoking, whatever it is to sort of mask the pain, to get rid of it through unhealthy means. So, if you do choose to sit with the pain, it's very brave, it's very difficult, but it is something that you can do, and it is pretty awesome if you can accomplish that. But don't feel like, oh gosh, I'm not able to sit with the pain. Don't worry about it. Most people aren't at that level, and it is pretty difficult. So here we are. Get support from someone outside. Go do something for yourself. And then number 3, I would get moving. And that means exercise, which is scientifically proven to raise your serotonin. So what that means is obviously hit the gym. If you're not a gym rat, if you're not a gym person, it's just as easy as putting one foot in front of the other, okay? So taking your dog for a walk, or just taking yourself for a walk. Here in LA, there's a lot of traffic. There's a lot of concrete, stuff like this. But what I do is I look up. I look at the trees. I look at the sky. And that is nature. So spend time in nature. Even if you don't think you have nature around you, you always do somewhere. The earth is our God, and God is everywhere. So make sure you look to the sky, look to the trees, calm yourself through nature. Because if you're inside the whole time, you're going to feel pent up, you're going to feel frustrated, you're going to get overheated, and all these reality shows coming at you How can you not feel depressed? So understand that, okay? Now, with the negative thoughts, this is something I teach my clients. You have to simply overcome them. And it isn't simply, but it's like learning a new language, okay? So if you guys out there speak a new language, like I pretend I speak Spanish like everyone in LA. It's more like Spanglish. But when you speak Spanish, say when I'm in Mexico and it starts flowing, I feel like, oh, right, I'm speaking Spanish. I'm fluent and it's flowing. It kind of feels great because you're in that sweet spot. Well, it's the same with positive thought. You can get into that sweet spot where you are flowing with positive thought. And it takes training, okay? So it takes training of the mind to reach the point where you are in positive thought 100% because you have trained your mind to be there, all right? So what happens is in the beginning, you have to start telling yourself the opposite of your negatives, all right? So if you're walking around saying, I'm fat, I'm fat, I'm fat, I want you to catch that thought, I'm fat. And you want to say, cancel, clear, delete. I learned this from my friend Isabella, a beautiful shaman. Cancel, clear, delete. So that thought is out. And then you say to yourself, I love my beautiful, sexy, slender body. I bless my body with love. Some sort of alternate thought, opposite thought, a positive thought to replace the negative, right? But like I'm saying, it's learning a new language. So you're going to constantly, in the beginning, be checking yourself. I'm broke. No. Cancel, clear, delete. I am infinitely wealthy and debt-free, right? And then what happens is after like a month, you start automatically saying the positive thought. I'm infinitely wealthy and debt-free. I'm infinitely wealthy and debt-free. Oh my God, I'm infinitely wealthy and debt-free. And what happens is the universe responds to those thoughts and starts rewarding you with the money, rewarding you with the weight loss, right? Rewarding you with the happiness. So this depression and sense of loss and things like this start to dissipate, right? So understand that if you work hard to train the mind and to believe these new positive thoughts, then the negative will slowly disappear. And the one thing with affirmation that's very important is you have to believe the affirmation. Because if you're just saying it, in the beginning, you're probably just going to be saying it, right? But ultimately, you have to believe what you're saying, and that's when it starts to really work. Okay, guys? So understand that. You start to believe it, and then you will receive it. Believe and you shall receive. So that's how I got out of my depression, was through the art of affirmation. Now, antidepressants. I do believe in them, okay? Personally, I don't take them, but I do believe if you are dark enough, you should take antidepressants because it's like a diabetic needs insulin. This is my personal opinion, but there are some people who are dark enough that they do need some sort of adjustment. So I personally believe if you're that dark and you can't get out, then you possibly should look into medication. Therapy, yes. Spiritual therapy, most definitely, okay, guys? Because then you're in touch with the universe, with quantum physics, with the art of positive thought, all these things, hopefully, so you don't have to take medication. But if you are so dark that you're feeling suicidal, you should probably look into something like that, okay? So that's my thoughts. Those are my thoughts on depression because so many of my clients have been dark lately. And I've been trying to lift them up, help them out of this darkness, and keep them from, doing anything dangerous or, going off the deep end, really. And just know also when you lose someone, it can also be in the form of a breakup. And you still are mourning. And anyone who tells you that there is a time limit on mourning, or you should, and especially with a breakup because that person is still alive, oh, you should be over them by now. Just know there is no time limit on mourning, okay? So those people can just, get lost. You don't need to listen to them anymore. You just don't need to speak to them about your pain because they don't understand, right? So there is no time limit on mourning. You can mourn as long as you like, but understand that when there is a breakup, you are being invited by the universe to grow, to expand, to move forward, okay? To blossom like a lotus, to become a butterfly, all right? You notice when you break up with someone, you lose weight, you start looking hot, you start going to the gym, you start getting yourself, into books and knowledge and moving forward. It's no accident because you're being invited by God, by the universe, to expand, to move forward, to be this beautiful butterfly. So I want you to kind of step out of your sadness and say, hey, I'm going to evolve and do me. And then God or universe is going to bring me someone who deserves me. So that's a good way to look at breaking up, okay? I know it hurts like hell, but just understand that that is what a breakup is actually about, okay? Is cleansing yourself and making room for the new, all right? So take time for yourself, and hopefully these tips on going dark will help, because losing a loved one from suicide or losing a loved one just to depression in general is really difficult for us who aren't depressed or who aren't, whatever. But it's really, really hard on everyone. So keep your thoughts correct. Work hard at training the mind. That helps so much. And the other cool thing with helping out with depression is just dogs. Dogs are wonderful. Dog, spelled backward, is God. Okay, so get a dog if all else fails. Okay, so those are my thoughts on depression. So if I helped anyone today, I'll be glad for that. As far as your fortunes for the week, for your predictions, as far as money and work, number one, work is kind of weird right now. What I feel is the vibration of someone who may be threatening you because they're kind of like, there's a presence of a younger, hotter, sexier person at work that may be bright and shiny and sort of taking away your mystique. And they won't last long, so don't worry about it. It's just that they are new on the scene kind of feeling, right? So, or the boss may be attracted to them. This is temporary, okay? But you're not going to be getting that much attention for like the next 2 weeks due to this bright and shiny object, person, thing, okay? Either an object, person, or thing. There's distraction. So if you're not feeling the love, that is why, okay? There's distraction from an outside source. Now, so the message is don't take things personally. You're doing fine. Just don't take things personally because you're not going to feel a lot of appreciation, but it's not personal, all right? So that's like for a week or two. And then everything else with work, pretty much the same. It's a very Groundhog's Day vibe right now, meaning everything is the same, on the same vibration, same sort of steady flow, no increase, no decrease, but sorry to say, not a lot of appreciation either. But they still love you. They're just not saying it. As far as money is still on the increase, but it's becoming a little more subtle. You've got to watch for the signs. You've got to ask for what you want, ask the universe, and make it clear. there are vibrations of, again, unexpected sources. So money coming from unexpected sources, which is exciting. So, a check in the mail, a lottery ticket, something like this, or maybe even a raise at work. But I wouldn't see a raise for like 2 more weeks, because right now, again, you're not being really noticed. As far as love vibration right now, love is very tender. It is, there have been a lot of breakups. Now, I don't want you to think you're going to be broken up with, but I want you to appreciate the love you have, okay? So this is for couples. If you're in a couple, make sure you don't look back and understand when you got together, how beautiful that was, and cherish that, and look back fondly with all the memories you have with your partner, and try to recreate some of that magic this week, okay? And appreciate what you have. And instead of bitching about what goes wrong these days, go back and appreciate what you have and have had, and move forward with this beautiful feeling of love together, okay? Now, if you're single, do your best to not make waves this week, okay? Because there's like a snapping turtle effect going on, where if you say the slightest thing, someone may get a little upset, okay? Now, that vibration lasts for 5 more days. So just make sure you be cautious with what you say to your mate, because it's almost like, not to be creepy, but like they have PMS or something, like they're on edge. So just be cautious and be gentle with your words, okay? So that's love. And as far as the vibration overall, it should just be a peacekeeping time, and everything is fine, but communication is just a little wonky. But just make sure that you keep your thoughts correct, like I said, and don't go dark. But that was just a message due to the influx of my clients who have been sort of dark in the last couple of weeks. I thought, hey, maybe you have it too, and I thought I would share that with you. But I'm ready to take a caller now. Who have I got out there?
Tanya from Columbus, Ohio.
Hi, Tanya.
Hi, how are you this evening?
Oh, Sonia, I'm sorry.
Can you hear me okay?
I can. What can I do for you?
I kind of want to know what's going on with the job that I had an interview with. I've had 2 interviews with this particular company, and I feel like they're just lingering, and I don't know what the holdup is. They say they're still doing interviews. I have no clue. Is this a job that wasn't meant for me, or what do you see?
Was that last Thursday?
Last Thursday. The interview? No, the second interview took place on April the 2nd.
Okay, because I feel a Thursday.
Last Thursday, I did speak with someone, but then it was a no-go. Nothing happened with it.
Okay, because I feel last Thursday. Okay, so you spoke with someone last Thursday. They are being truthful. They are still looking at people. Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
However, okay, by next Friday, you will have all your information. I feel that you are one of the contenders.
Okay.
I feel that you are one of the contenders, and it comes down to 3 people, and you are one of them.
Okay.
Now, there's a great possibility that you get this job. So why are you hesitant?
Okay.
Why do you feel hesitant? Just because of the runaround?
I feel, yes. They were looking to hire pretty soon, but then it's like something happened with one of my references. The manager wasn't able to get a hold of one of them, so I had to give a backup reference, and I don't know if that was an issue, if that may have caused them to be hesitant or whatnot. I'm not sure.
It didn't affect things, and I don't want you to worry. And I can't guarantee, but I see 1 in 3 chance. There's 3 contenders, and you're very much on the list and very high regard.
Okay.
So I wouldn't worry. The indication is please stop worrying, and a very good chance that you get it. Very good chance that you get it.
Okay.
The reference thing is not an issue.
So the reference was not an issue?
No.
Okay.
By next Friday, you will have your answer. And if I'm to predict, I would say you get the job.
Okay. This is the one I had 2 interviews with.
Correct.
Okay.
I don't want you to worry. Just do you in the meantime.
Okay. Now, do you see a particular salary that they are going to offer, or
I
or
see
a range?
the number 6, 60. Is that making sense?
60. No.
No? Okay. Why don't you give me a number and I'll tell you if I'll vibrate on it, or something that you want. Because I'm seeing a multiple of 6.
You're seeing multiples of 6. I mean, I would like to see, a salary in the 60 range, but I don't know.
I see in the 60 range.
You do?
I do.
That would be nice.
I do. I think you might be underestimating the awesomeness of this position and the amount of salary. But when you said that, I tuned in. I saw a big number 6.
Okay. I know the starting range for this particular position was only 30 to 40.
Okay.
So that's why when you said 60, I did not recognize that. So could it be another position that I may be considered for?
It could be. Or maybe 2 threes. 2 threes is a 6, but I do feel very positively about this. I don't BS people. I don't, if I didn't feel good, I would tell you. I would tell you.
Okay.
But that's how I feel, Sonia. I think you're going to get it.
Okay, so you see something by next Friday.
Yes, ma'am. And I think we're at the end of the show, but I wish you all the best and the best of luck, and stay positive in your mind. Tell yourself, I have this job.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes, my friend. Have a great evening.
You do the same. Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay, everyone. I hope you all have a beautiful night. And that was a nice call with Sonia. And, if you want to manifest something, see yourself in that job. How does it smell, feel, taste? How are the sounds? Every sense activated. How is that job for you? And see yourself in it and be there. And that's all you need to do. And you will receive the job. Believe and receive. And I really hope that Sonia gets that job, and I just know she will. Okay? So have a great night, you guys, and I'll see you next week. Lots of love.
Hello, everyone. I'm Colleen van der Zijden, and this is Creating an Inspired Life. Happy you're here as usual. It's so nice to have people tuning in, watching, and listening. I'm a medium as well as a life coach. Tonight's coaching tip is all about being disillusioned. And I'm sure you've experienced moments in your life where you expected life to be a certain way, and you end up waking up to some kind of a disillusionment and seeing that it's not quite what you thought it was going to be, or it isn't quite what you thought it was. Being disillusioned means we are disappointed in someone or something that has turned out to be what we think is less good than what we thought it would be. We say we're disillusioned when we might have a relationship with somebody and we find out they're not who we thought they were. We might be disillusioned if we have a job that doesn't turn out to be what we expected. We could even be disillusioned with life itself. As we're growing up as children, you know, we're always being told what to do, where to go, all of those things. And we think as adults, we'll be able to do whatever we want, whenever we want. And no one will be controlling us. But then, as we grow up, we find out we have some adult responsibilities we didn't know about as children. And we think life was going to be a lot easier as an adult. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's more problematic and challenging. And that can lead us onto a little bit of path of disillusionment. We think being disillusioned is a negative state. And we think that it's a bad thing. But what if, instead of it being a bad thing, it's really waking us up from some kind of a stupor or something of unawareness? That what if it's taking us from a limited belief system or a limited perspective and moving us instead into a more powerful sense of self-awareness? One of my clients was complaining about the people in her life. She was complaining about how negative they were and how nasty they were. And it was affecting her to such an extent, because that's all she could see was the negative, that she had formed this belief system that people, all people, which isn't true, but all people were harsh, critical, egotistical, and uncaring. This really affected her because she thought the world was a safe space. But having this belief system in place, based on some limited situations that she had experienced, she made a general statement that people are just not very nice, and it affected her. And so she didn't feel safe anymore. And because of this, she herself started becoming very critical and very judgmental. She allowed herself to be affected by this negativity, this perceived negativity that she thought was everywhere. She was so focused on this that her life experience became very negative. She disconnected from her center. She disconnected from who she truly was, and she was off balance. She was unbalanced. She didn't know where her loving centered self was anymore. She got to the point that she was very disillusioned with life in general. She thought it was very hard. She was disappointed that people weren't very nice and they weren't very kind and caring. And by allowing it to affect her, that really turned her into a negative person as well. Now, of course, we all have those problems and challenges, as I always say. We always will experience negative situations and negative people, but we don't have to let that negativity affect us so much so that we lose track of who we truly are. This disillusionment with my client, she started to really think about this. She didn't want to be miserable anymore. She didn't want to be focused on the negative anymore. She no longer wanted to look at all people and judge them and feel like they were horrible people. What she did is she ended up using that disillusionment and opening her eyes up a little bit to see what was really going on. She used it to kind of reclaim herself and get her awareness back into a state of actually being used. She recognized that she had the power to shift her beliefs, to change her belief systems into something else. She also realized she needed to detach from this perceived negativity rather than allowing herself to get sucked into that negative emotion. You know how sometimes something goes on in our heads and it just goes and goes and we can't get out of it sometimes. That's what can happen if we're fixating on something, and it brings up that sense of disillusionment. Since this, when I talked to her about this, she started to realize that it wasn't all people who were bad. It was just a couple of people, but it affected her so much because she was on the more sensitive side too, that's how come she allowed it to affect her to such a degree that she lost herself. Now, for another example, as I always talk about relationships on here, it seems, that's something that we all want to know about. We've all had relationships where the person we're with turns out to be a totally different person than who we thought they were. They're usually not as loving and kind and caring as we thought. Initially, when this happens, when that disillusionment comes in and we go, we're shocked that this person is not the way we thought they were, we will get very sad. It can be very distressing. And what will happen is we need to mourn what we've lost here. We've got to mourn what we thought we had. We thought we had something special, but we don't necessarily, because now our eyes are opening up in our state of disillusionment. We may have made plans in our head or physically, and now they're not working out because it's just not. But because our disillusionment is opening our eyes up to our own awarenesses, opening our eyes up to reality of who we are, who other people are, we're really seeing things a little bit more clearly. It's helping us grow as people and actually have a better life. So disillusionment is not necessarily a bad state. It can be painful and distressing, but it moves you into a new state of awareness that's very important for achieving the life you want to have and creating that. With a relationship, I bet you can look back on a relationship you had at one point where you woke up, you had that disillusion feeling, and then you realized that, you had to move on for whatever reason. But now you look back and you go, wow, I'm so glad I didn't stay with that person, because if I had stayed with that person, it would have been horrible. So a disillusion can really help you protect you from something that would have been horrible. It's opening you up also to other aspects about yourself, who you are as a person. What is acceptable to you? What are your boundaries? What kind of life do you want to have? Are you having that? What is important to you? That will move you into this new state of questioning, what is it you really want out of life? If you're feeling disillusioned now with a person or a situation or whatever it is, allow it to show you what's important to you. Allow it to show you what needs to be brought to your awareness. What you feel like you need to know. Maybe you feel like you lost something, which would make sense, because disillusionment means you've lost some kind of a belief that is not true. It's been proven disappointingly to not be true. Maybe you feel like you've lost safety or love, or you've lost respect or even happiness. Maybe you thought life would be more carefree and it's not. And you can still take control over your life again by recognizing what it is you've lost. And if you've lost some kind of belief, that's okay, because you'll move into a new belief that's even stronger, that's more realistic. And I'm not saying that for my client that all her people that are around her were nasty and negative, because they weren't. It was just what she was looking at right now. So sometimes our beliefs just need to be shifted a little bit to move into a better state. So allow this disillusionment, I don't even know if that's a word, to open your eyes to the facts, to see what's really out there. Let it take you beyond your limited perspectives and beliefs and back into the oh my goodness, I can't talk, the powerful place of who you truly are, that state of awareness where you can figure things out from a more empowered perspective. Let go of a belief if it's not true. Release the expectations of how the world should be or you thought it would be, and see things from a different angle instead. Recognize the power that it's giving you. You're reclaiming your inner power, and when you do that, you're also reclaiming your power to create the life you want and deserve. And that is my coaching tip of the day. We have lots of us have experienced being disillusioned, so I thought that would be fun to talk about. It's an interesting little angle when you think about it, so maybe you'll remember it. If you're just joining in, I'm Colleen Vander Zijden, and you can find me at psychicmediumcolleen.com. Also on Facebook, Colleen Vander Zijden, Medium and Self-Empowerment Coach, and I would love for you to follow me there. It would be awesome. So we are actually going to move on right now to our first caller, who is Becky in England. Becky, how are you?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing very well. What can I help you with
Good.
today?
Do you want? Is it got to be something specific, or can I just say what are you? Can you pick anything up, or do you want me to? Do you want it to be something specific?
Whatever you want. Frequently what I find out is if somebody has a specific concern, they'll call for that and they want to address it, and then they'll get irritated if I don't address it. Okay, so, if you have something specific. Otherwise, what I'll do is I'll connect in with the spirit and see who comes in.
Yeah, okay. Do that, I think, please.
Okay, you can always interrupt me and ask something specific as we get going, of course. I do have a spirit who does step in for you, and I have a gentleman as he's coming in. And as he's coming in, I want to be a teasing personality. I want to be somebody that's going to be telling stories and trying to get reactions, especially from children. He loves children. On the other side, he tells me that he passes at a halfway decent age, so we're up in the elderly, but not the oldest ages, so maybe 70s, that area. He's also showing me something going on with my lower back into the hip area. So frequently I'll get a physical sensation for something they may have experienced when they were here. I don't feel a complainer with him, and he does feel like he's related to you. Do you have a grandfather who was a bit of a joker?
Well, I didn't meet one of them.
Okay.
I don't think he was. I think he was very serious. So, no, I don't think so.
Okay. So do you know somebody else it might be instead of a grandfather? Because this guy, he's got a really good sense of humor, and I want to be playing with kids. I want to be teasing them and tricking them in a good way, not in a bad way. And I want to be tricking them. And this seems to be very important to him to do that.
No, not really. No, not that I can think of. No.
Okay. Just hold on to that information, because whoever wants to come in, I just let them come in and see where they want to go. The reason I feel him coming in is I get the impression that you're actually quite good with people yourself, that you have a very good way with the way, and you have a good sense of how to get the best out of people. And
definitely. I try to.
Yes, I tell you, the right spirit always comes in, even if we don't recognize them right away. And there's the feeling of a connection between the two of you, because you are kind of similar to the way he is. And as he's talking about you, he says you understand the concept of being nice to people to get what you want. So if you have a particular need, there's no need to go screaming at someone. And actually, he laughs because he says you would never do that. But you know how to do it in a very respectful, kind way. But he's also telling me you're not a pushover. You'll say what you need to say. He really enjoys how you say things to people. And he gives me the impression you do spend some time guiding others, giving them direction as to how to go about doing things, suggestions, advice. He says you have very good advice because you understand where the other person is coming from. You have a very good sense of insight into what the other person is thinking and feeling. And because of that, the way you talk to them, you're very engaging, and people feel like you really understand them. You must have a lot of very nice friends around you. Do you have a lot of friends or something? Because it seems like you are like amazing.
Yeah, thank you. I do. I love people. So, yeah, I like to have lots of people around me. Yeah.
Okay, because it's really cool how he's talking about you. He gives me such a good perspective on you and how good you are. And he gives me such a feeling of joy around you, and laughter and love around you. And the effect you've had on other people is so wonderful. And he's very happy with this. I want to talk about two things before I let you go. I still have time. Okay, good. Two things. One, I want to talk about your car. I am assuming you have a car.
No, I don't. I don't drive.
Okay, I want to talk about a car, okay? Does somebody take you places? And let me tell you what I'm feeling. I'm feeling a flat, okay, in the car, flat tire. I'm feeling a flat, and I want to say the left side, but I'm feeling the right side, so I'm not sure what this means. So, of course, wait a minute, you're in London, so you would be opposite me. So maybe that's why I can't tell which side I'm talking about. Oh, that's funny. So there's a flat. So there's a caution with this. So if you haven't experienced, have you experienced a flat with somebody lately?
No, in cars. But what I am concerned about is on Saturday I need to travel. Well, I booked tickets to go and see my family, and it's like a 6-hour train journey, and then I've got to come back on the Sunday, and I'm really worried that it's going to be too exhausting, the travel. So that could be to do with that, because I don't know whether to go or whether to delay the visit, you see, when I have more time to stay with my family.
Okay. I'm not having a problem with the train at all.
Yeah.
That's fine to me. The flat thing is bothering me. Okay. Are you close enough to the train that you're just going to walk there and get on it?
Yeah. Well, I was going to get a taxi, actually, a cab, so that would be in a car.
Okay. I would feel better if you went earlier than you think you need to go. Just go earlier.
Okay.
So if the train's leaving at 4, get there at 3.
Do you think I should go? Do you think I should go? Do you? I do, because I'm not feeling any issues with the train. I'm not feeling any issues with you being there, and I'm not feeling any issues with you coming back either. It feels perfectly fine. I'm not going to be too tired. I'm not going to be tired.
No, I'm not feeling it. I feel like you might be a little tired, but I don't feel that exhaustion feel or anything like that.
Okay,
I'm not feeling that at all. Okay, so I feel very good about that. So the leaving earlier, if you could get there earlier just to make sure you're there on time, okay? Because coming back, it's not so essential in a way, back to your own place. But getting there, I don't know. I just feel like I want you there earlier, just so you're ready, and there's no chance of you missing.
Yeah, okay. So get to the train station earlier than I need to
get to the train station earlier.
But I will have to get a cab there. I can't walk it. That's the only thing.
Yes.
I have to get a cab.
Yes. And what may happen, I've had people tell me this happens sometimes when I tell them something like that, which I don't do a lot, but you may miss the cab that would have had the flat, is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
If you get the cab that does have the flat, you'll still have time, so it's okay. So I'm trying to cover both angles here for you, because I don't want you to miss the train. That feels like
what was the other thing? What was the other thing?
The other thing is kind of wacky. I want to be with pots and pans. Okay, I want to be with pots and pans, and I don't know why I'm putting my hands up and down on top of each other, and usually that means like a stacking of pots and pans. I have no idea what that means. Do you stack your pots and pans? Do you have a lot of pots and pans? What's the deal?
Yeah, well, not particularly. Lots. Normal.
Funny. Okay. Well, keep this in mind, because I'm seeing the pots and pans, and there's something about the way they are angled and stacked. I'm also wondering if somebody is going to drop one, because I get a little bit of a sudden feeling, like startle. I feel like I'm startled. So if that happens, just try not to startle too much, okay?
Okay.
I love the weird stuff like that, because it's just weird. And it'll be fun to see if it plays out and if it happens, because you'll go, oh, she said that.
Do you get anything, because I'm doing a beauty